Well, records released to Judicial Watch revealed Joe Biden's son Hunter took 411 separate flights on government aircraft to 29 different foreign countries. 5 of those trips were to China alone. One America's John Hines caught up with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who says those flights raise questions about the former vice president's judgment.
Does it trouble you that the son of the former vice president was using government aircraft and providing security that goes along with that?
Yeah, I don't think whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, when you look at the son of a prominent politician using government aircraft, flying to China on deals, flying on Air Force Two to China, and then coming back with billion-dollar deals that even Hunter Biden himself has admitted in an interview, yeah, I wouldn't have gotten any of this if my last name hadn't been Biden. I think this sickens people in the American public, and I think just the rottenness of the system that people are manipulating and using government aircraft to make money for their kids, I think it's terrible, and I think it should be investigated, and we should see where the investigation takes us.
Do you think that this really raises a lot of questions potentially about the former vice president and his, judgment in these situations, particularly if he were to be president?
Yeah, and I think even at the time, some of Vice President Biden's aides were saying at the time, this doesn't look appropriate. This doesn't look right that your son's going on these trips and negotiating deals. So no, I think it looks terrible, reflects terribly on the vice president that he wouldn't have the wherewithal to say, well, you know, really, I shouldn't be taking my son on these trips and helping my son make money. So no, I think it looks terrible. And everything they tried to accuse President Trump of using government for political purposes, my goodness, using government to make money for your kids, I think it's a rotten deal, rotten to the core. And I think if we get to the bottom of it, I think a lot of laws were broken.
Finally, sir, I know that some information has come out with regard to the former vice president once again, suggesting that he was involved in this surveillance of General Flynn, at least suggesting a strategy. Were you surprised, and what's your reaction?
You know, I think the vice president has some memory issues, and he had difficulty remembering that he was involved with this meeting in the first place, but he was there with President Obama, and they were talking about what they should do about General Flynn. Who's General Flynn? A member of the incoming administration of President Trump, but also a political opponent. So you remember we went on months and months with Democrats, you know, beating their chests and saying, oh, President Trump used government to go after a political opponent. Well, it's exactly what Vice President Biden and President Obama, frankly, did. They had meetings. They decided to go after someone in the incoming administration, their political opponent, and they tried to use something obscure, this Logan Act, which really makes no sense. The Logan Act says that, you know, John Smith, the dog catcher in Peoria, cannot make treaties with Russia. That's what it's about. If you're not in government, you can't negotiate treaties and be part of diplomacy or war efforts. But this is the incoming national security advisor to the president, which was 1 or 2 weeks away from being inaugurated. You would expect that person to maybe not negotiate treaties and do that, but to be talking with our adversaries and talking with other members of countries. It would be the normal part of their government. And actually, if you look back to President Obama's early days, they had all kinds of conversations. In the 2 or 3 months you have leading up to the inauguration, you get elected in November, you're putting your administration together for a couple of months. Absolutely, President Obama and President Trump talk to foreign leaders. There's no way you can say that that's inappropriate. But the fact that the vice president, Peter Strzok, putting this down in handwriting, that the vice president suggested, why don't we use the Logan Act to go after him? Yeah, I think that shows that the vice president was willing to get his hands dirty and use the apparatus of government to go after his political opponent in the form of General Flynn.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.